and I may drive them out from the land. For I know that whoever you bless is blessed, and whoever you curse is cursed. So Balak thinks he can get away with something against God's people. Hello and welcome to Applicata Biblia. My name is Mark, and thank you so much for stopping by as we get into a little bit of God's Word. We are studying and continuing in the series that I call Characters of the Bible, or a walk through the Bible. And we are currently studying this section where Israel is traveling through the wilderness on their way to the Promised Land. Now, on the way, they come into Moab, and the Moabites really don't like what they see, the king especially. And we're just going to read the first part of Numbers chapter 22, maybe the first 17 verses or so. And then I'm just going to relay the rest of the story and its meaning, not only for the time, but the projected meaning to Christians today even. Numbers chapter 22. And the sons of Israel pulled up stakes and camped on the plains of Moab, beyond the Jordan by Jericho. And Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that the Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab greatly feared because of the people, for it was many. And Moab was vexed by the presence of the sons of Israel. And Moab said to the elders of Midian, Now, this assembly is licking up all that is around us, as the ox licks up the grass of the field. And Balak, the son of Zippor, was king of Moab at that time. And he sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, to Pethor, which is beside the river of the land of the sons of his people, to call for him, saying, Behold, a people has come out of Egypt. Behold, it has covered the eye of the earth, and is sitting next to me. And now please come, curse this people for me. For it is stronger than I. Perhaps I will prevail, that we may strike them, and I may drive them out from the land. For I know that whoever you bless is blessed, and whoever you curse is cursed. So Balak thinks he can get away with something against God's people. And the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian left with rewards of the seer in their hand. And they came to Balaam and spoke the words of Balak to him. And he said to them, Stay here tonight, and I will bring back word to you, even as Jehovah may speak to me. And the leaders of Moab stayed with Balaam. And God came to Balaam and said, Who are these men with you? Like he doesn't know, right? And Balaam said to God, Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent to me, saying, Behold, a people has come out of Egypt, which covers the eye of the earth. Now come, curse them for me. Perhaps I will be able to overcome it and drive it out. And God said to Balaam, You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for it is blessed. And Balaam rose in the morning and said to the leaders of Balak, Go to your land, for Jehovah has refused to give me leave to go with you. And the leaders of Moab rose up and came to Balak, and they said to Balaam, Balaam refuses to come with us. And Balak sent yet again more leaders, more honorable than they. And they came to Balaam and said to him, So says Balak, the son of Zippor, Please do not be hindered from coming to me, for I will honor you with very much honor. And all that you say to me I will do, and please come, curse this people for me. And Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, If Balak would give to me his house full of gold and silver, I could not go beyond the mouth of Jehovah my God to do anything, small or great. And now, you also please stay here tonight, and I will know what more Jehovah may speak to me. Balaam. And God said to Balaam at night, and he said to him, God came to him and said to him, if the men have come to call you, rise up, go with them, and say only the thing that I speak to you. It you shall do. And Balaam rose up in the morning and saddled his donkey and went with the leaders of Moab. Okay, so there's a lot more to the story, but you can see what's going on here. These kings are frightfully afraid of Israel, and they should be. I mean, they tore up on the Egyptian army. God did, right? They swallowed them up in the Red Sea. So they're deathly afraid, and they tore up on the Amorites already. They're afraid. And so this king Balak, he just wants this prophet of God to come and curse these people. Obviously, maybe he doesn't know that Israel, God is the God of Israel. I don't know. Maybe he did, and he thought he can get a favor. And this is what kings would be thinking. I'm a king. I have authority. Like this God has authority, and I can just talk to him, and he can do something for me. He thinks he can do this. He thinks he can strike a deal with God. And Balaam tells him, I can't. He tells me no. And so the messengers go back, and the king sends better messengers, right? People who are way more renowned, and say, look, the king's going to make you rich. Just go over there. So he's like, just hang out. Let me go talk to God. So, what's going on, Balaam? Come on. God already told you no. That should have been the end of it. But Balaam's like, no, maybe I can get something here. I assume that's what he's thinking. I mean, if a king tells you he'll give you whatever you want, I guess that might really tempt you, right? Yeah. So God tells him, okay, go. But you only say what I tell you to say, right? So that's where we left off in the story. And what else happens? Well, he takes off and he gets on his donkey and he's riding along, and God gets angry. God is angry that Balaam just didn't listen to him. He listened to me the first time. Now he's coming back. What is he doing? God knows that this is not the right heart. So he sends this angel in front of the donkey, and he's waving a sword or whatever, and the donkey sees him. And so the donkey kind of moves over to this wall and presses on his leg, and he does that a few times. And Balaam is really upset. He says, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And the donkey, he says, why are you doing this to me, you stupid donkey? And the donkey talks to him and says, I've never done anything like this. And right about then, Balaam sees the angel and goes, oh, okay. And so the angel tells him, go with the men, but only the word that I speak to you is what you're going to speak. And so he goes. So he goes, and what happens? Well, he gets there, is God going to curse Israel? Of course not. Why? Because Jesus is coming through Israel. Okay, that's the story. That's the main part of the story. Israel's coming. It has to be this nation that God is rising up, because the Christ has to come to reveal God to everybody. Now, some people, like I say, almost every time, some people know who God is, and they act toward God properly. But so many people just don't, and so Israel needs to move forward. But anyway, Balaam gets over there to the king. And he says, "Oh, look, go, build some altars and sacrifice some animals, and we'll see if we can curse anybody." And it doesn't work. So he says, and the king says, "Well, I'll build another one." And so he builds more altars and kills more animals, and Balaam still can't curse. God doesn't put the words in his mouth to curse. He keeps blessing every time. He keeps blessing Israel, and then he do it a third time. And of course, Balaam does not curse Israel. And by this time, Balak is really, really angry, and he's like, I could have made you rich, but now you're not going to be rich because you won't curse these people. And Balaam's just like, dude, I told you I can only speak what God tells me to say. So yeah, they are going to be blessed. And then he prophesies some things about David that happened later on, about Moab and all of these things, and Edom and all this stuff. And of course, the bigger picture, like I say, is that Israel has to do their part. They have to become a nation. And then later we see King David come along, and the lineage of Christ comes through King David. And all of these things need to happen so Jesus can come along. And here are the questions that I have on the blog, really quick. Why did Balak, king of Moab, call for Balaam? He was just simply afraid. He was afraid of God. And that's the weird part, is people don't understand. People who are afraid of God is like, if you would just revere God and approach him with the reverence that is due to him, you don't need to be afraid of God. And of course the offer was, I'll make you rich beyond your belief, beyond belief. And Jehovah says, you can only speak what I tell you. We have these 3 times that they build the altar. He keeps trying it. And the thing to me, the bigger message here is Balaam. It's like, Balaam, you should have just stayed home. I'm surprised God didn't just, we see God striking people dead throughout here to send a message to people. I'm surprised it didn't happen this time. God already told you not to go, and yet you went. And maybe it was an existential threat, so I don't know. But so neither Balak nor Balaam stopped after God's first answer. Why do you suppose that is? Well, because they think they're going to change God, right? And, I've talked about this a couple of times. Moses was able to bargain with God, but he doesn't change God. God still exacted judgment on Israel. He just didn't do it in the way that he wanted to do it in that one instance, or a couple of instances, actually. No, God is unchangeable. And that is, people don't like that for some reason. It's like, no, that's the beautiful thing about God. You can be assured of who he is and what he stands for. That is a hallmark of a beautiful thing in anybody's life, is to have an understanding of who your God is, and what he expects, and what he will say about the things that you're thinking about doing or doing. That's a beautiful thing. Okay, Balaam knew better, but he went ahead and did it anyway. So, his character is called into question some, but the fact that he never did do what the king wanted him to do because he knew he couldn't speak against God does tell us he had some faith, right? He had some faith, but he tested God, and that's not a very smart thing to do, in my mind anyway. And this is what we see Balak as well. I already said it. Balak just thinks he's one power negotiating with another power, who is Jehovah God. And he doesn't understand who God is. And obviously he didn't understand who the Israelites were either in God's plan. So he's working out of ignorance. And again, if these people would give their lives, if they would have given their lives over to God, it all would have worked out for them. But they don't. Okay, and then I note that in the prophecies that we see about Moab, David defeats Moab in 2 Samuel 8, and David subjects Edom in 2 Samuel 8. 2 Samuel 8 is basically David's rise to power and how he brings the land and all the peoples into subjection to Judah, and that's much later. after this. That's many, many years later after this. He defeats the Amalekites in 1 Samuel 30. He defeats the Kenites in 1 Samuel 27. So there's a bunch of prophecies in there about someone coming later, and it's David. But the bigger projection is who David represents. David represents the promise to Abraham. Through David comes the Christ, and all nations will be blessed. That's how it fits into the narrative. Okay, so I just say here to note that many churches today have a wide variety of different doctrinal issues, weaving together man's will and desires with God's will and desires. God's will and doctrine are clearly written in His Word. There are no new, up-to-date, more exciting, or better man-made variations that are needed to worship God today. Okay, this is something that is kind of baffling, that some churches just do things because they think culturally that's the right thing to do, and it's like, God says not to do it. And if you see, if you're going to a church and you're reading things and you're going, they shouldn't be doing this, but they're doing it, don't go there. I mean, and what I mean by that is some people are way more overt about the wrongdoing that they do, and it can be easy to spot if you just study. No one can serve two masters. Okay, okay, enough of that. So. Again, just to tie it up, we see people trying to change God. We just talked about Korah. He wanted to change God's plan, right? He's all up in arms, and he gets all these people to be all upset at Aaron and Moses and what God is doing. And they're accusing Moses, who do you think you are? And actually they are rebelling against God. And this is what we have to be careful with, right? Look into your scriptures to confirm things. If people are doing things that are outside of scriptures, you might want to talk about it. But if people are just doing what God wants them to do, then go with it, right? You should be a part of that. I should be a part of that. That whole idea of being a part of God's body. Okay, thank you so much for listening. In the next one, we're going to jump ahead a little bit. But that's fine. And we'll see you then.